From the Victory Studios in downtown Little Rock, this is Capitol View with your host, Drew Petrimo.
Good Sunday morning and welcome to Capitol View. I'm Drew Petrimo. Thanks for being with us. Following a busy week in Arkansas politics, we'll get into the latest on the controversial legislation at the Capitol, including new developments in the campus carry bill. Plus, Attorney General Leslie Rutledge is here to discuss the latest developments in the state's effort to restart the death penalty. We'll begin with this. Senator Tom Cotton walked into the Lion's Den Wednesday facing angry constituents at a town hall in Springdale. He got pointed questions on health care, immigration, and President Trump's alleged ties to Russia. Joining us to discuss her perspective on the town hall, Sarah Scanlon, former Arkansas director for the Bernie Sanders for President campaign. Thanks so much for coming in.
Hi, Drew.
So you took a bus of people from Central Arkansas up there to participate in this town hall. Want to take a listen to some clips from it, and we'll talk about it.
You again ignored Arkansans. You followed the party line.
I feel like our freedoms and our liberties are being threatened.
Wow, what kind of insurance do you have?
Some people took issue with the tone of the way the town hall went, that people were being disrespectful to him and not giving him a chance to talk. What do you think about that?
I think it's actually the exact opposite. I think here's an opportunity where voters in Arkansas have a chance to have a face-to-face conversation of sorts with their elected representative. And it's not very often that we get this opportunity. And taking it and making the most of it is extraordinarily important. Now, I will let you know that there were a number of people who were very interested in making sure that that the crowd didn't actually reflect any anger or get frustrated or show their emotional side, because as we were told, it's just not the way things are done in Arkansas. So I'm not surprised.
Who was that?
So there were just a bunch of organizers and people that were involved who wanted to make sure that we put our best, that the crowd put their best face forward.
But you guys didn't want to do that.
No, it wasn't that at all. I think that that when you have an emotional setting like you did, and people are actually very scared and fearful, you cannot control that output. You cannot control what's going to happen. I think there are people who are very aware that they needed to actually contain themselves a little bit, and then there are people who actually were not interested in being told the way Arkansans actually do things.
But is that a productive way to have political discourse?
I think so it's a great question in a lot of ways, right? So it's productive in the sense that we are still talking about it 3 days later, and that the conversations are still taking place, and that it's very clear that there are people who are emotionally impacted by the policies that are being put forth by our president and by our federal government, and they're feeling it, and people are sharing that. I mean, isolation is a big fear in this community. I mean, you don't know how many times I heard during the Sanders campaign from people who were saying, I'm the only person who feels this way. I'm the only person who thinks this way, when they're supportive of Senator Sanders. And it's clearly true now that people are feeling less and less isolated, but also people are feeling very, very angry about the impact of the things coming down on the federal side.
So you had ties to the Sanders campaign, and I'm sure you've heard the criticism that there are liberal activist groups, outside activist groups that are drumming up these and instructing people to go to these town halls. Was that the case of what we saw there, that these are people that have been instructed?
I can absolutely tell you that all of the activity that's taking place, whether it's going to visit their elected officials in their offices and being visible and making their opinions heard, writing letters, making phone calls, this is all organic. I am still waiting for my 12 weeks of back pay, coming apparently from somebody who's paying us to do all this stuff. I'd really like that.
Some of the tactics, though, seem to, there was this memo that was released online that urged people to get seats in the front and make it seem like there are more people than make it seem like they have wide support in the room and shout down people. So it looks like some of the tactics that were used during that town hall are exactly what instructions from organizations like Organizing for America were telling people to do.
So it wasn't Organizing for America. I think what you're referring to is the Indivisible program. It was like the Indivisible document. Right. And that Indivisible document actually came from the Tea Party's platform, and the Tea Parties, watching how the Tea Party actually put their town halls and how they behaved during town halls when the chairs were reversed. And I think that their playbook has been actually reversed on them, and we're seeing what it looks like on the other side gets engaged.
Where does this go? What do people like you want?
I have a prediction of where it will go. I think it will go with people being much more organized when it comes to the next election. I think in the past election and this last in 2016 in November, we saw very few contested races on the legislative side. We saw no federal contested races except on the second CD, and I bet you, Drew, that we will see 90 contested races and all federal races contested and all statewide races contested by people who have just woken up and are engaged for the first time.
What's the future of the Democratic Party in Arkansas and nationally? Because it seems like, you know, you have this DNC race where you have Perez, who may be seen as kind of a more of a mainstream candidate, and Ellison, who kind of represents maybe the Bernie Sanders wing of the party. How do you reconcile that and find a message going forward?
So I think it's going to be an extraordinarily challenging thing to do, and in that for when it comes to Perez, you've got the quote-unquote Sanders contingent, and the people who are actually just newly engaged, just interested in standing for a progressive platform, are saying that they're going to be less excited about him being the leader. I think Ellison is going to also have some challenges, specifically in the South. I know Keith Ellison. I've watched him for many, many years work out of Minnesota. And
but is the Ellison platform, is that something that can sell in Arkansas?
I think it's something that very much can sell. He's talking about resourcing things in a way that makes a huge difference. Getting people out of D.C. and putting them into the field, getting them into the communities where we actually can use good community organizing and training on how to talk to people, you know, one-on-one, and the impact that has.
I'll have to leave it at that. Sarah Scanlon, thanks so much for stopping by, and we'll be watching as you guys move forward.
Thank you.
Coming up after a quick break, Attorney General Leslie Rutledge joins me to discuss the rulings of this week on the death penalty and non-discrimination ordinances. You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning.
It's not just a car. It's your daily retreat. Innovative technology, refined styling. That feeling you can only find in a Lexus. Go ahead, spoil yourself. The ES and ES Hybrid.
Lease the 2017 ES 350 for $369 a month for 36 months.
Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer.
Next Sunday, it's the big new
Help Us Get Justice
NBC Sunday. Go! Steve Harvey's back with new Little Big Shots.
Why you don't have any hair?
Then the premiere of the next Dick Wolf drama, Chicago Justice.
I'm not gonna lose.
Don't. And
NYPD.
Season 2 of Shades of Blue begins.
You're dragging me back in.
3 big shows, 1 big night. Starts next Sunday, 8/7 Central on NBC.
Ferguson's Furniture is your exclusive store for USA Leather. You'll find this fine line of American-made premium leather furniture only at Ferguson's. The style is unchallenged, the comfort is unbelievable, and the price is very reasonable. And it's in stock now, only at Ferguson's. Statewide delivery available, and you can finance 36 months with 0 interest. You're going to fall in love with USA Leather Furniture, exclusively at Ferguson's Furniture next to the Walmart in Denton.
Success Vision is the best place to get no-line bifocals.
I was able to get 2 pair of no-line bifocals for $79.
My bifocals are ready in just a few hours.
My last pair of no-lines cost me $500. I came to Success Vision and got them for $57.
I got my eye exam next door.
One-stop shop for buying glasses.
My bifocals look great.
Better for 39 in an hour for less. Come see us today, Success Vision Express.
You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
Welcome back to Capitol View. The U.S. Supreme Court says no to Arkansas death row inmates hoping to have their case heard against the state's lethal injection procedure. The move clears a legal path forward for executions to resume, but plenty of hurdles remain. Joining us to discuss that and more, Attorney General Leslie Rutledge, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Well, thank you.
I wanted to start off talking about last week the U.S. Supreme Court denied an appeal filed by Arkansas death row inmates that had challenged the death penalty law in the state. You praised the decision. I wonder how you square your pro-life stances with your support for the death penalty.
Well, sure. Well, the two don't actually collide, Drew, and I'm always surprised by people who ask and argue that they do. You know, this decision by the Supreme Court ended that case for these 9 inmates, or rather 30-something, but the 9 who have exhausted all their appeals. These are individuals who have committed absolutely heinous, unspeakable acts against someone, who have murdered children, who have committed, again, unspeakable acts. And so for these families that are families of the victims, they're going to see justice be carried out. Absolutely, I am pro-life and believe that these innocent children in the womb deserve an opportunity to live, and so
why does that not extend to all life? I mean, if life begins at conception and that's a sacred thing, why not extend that to someone who is even committed a terrible crime?
Well, that's the laws of the state right now, that we do have lethal injection or someone dying if they have committed these acts, and so it's my job to defend the law and to support the law.
What's going to happen now? Because it seems like we keep going on this merry-go-round where it looks like we're going to have to restart the death penalty program, and then there's a challenge and it never actually happens. I mean, is this for real this time?
Well, yes. The United States Supreme Court denied to hear this case, and so this ends this case. We have, again, 9 prisoners who have exhausted all their appeals. Certainly, they can ask for clemency. We anticipate anytime with these issues that we will have another challenge, more litigation to come.
Did you tell the families now, like, when can we expect this to actually happen?
Well, what we're telling the families and what we've told the media and anyone else is that once the Supreme Court of Arkansas issues the mandate, then we will ask the governor, we'll send the letters over to the governor saying that these individuals have exhausted all of their appeals and request that dates be set for their execution.
Would you say by the end of the year we could expect that maybe something like this would happen?
Well, it depends on whether or not we have the drugs necessary for that 3-drug cocktail that has been approved. That's a question that's right for the Department of Correction and the governor to obtain that. The Department of Correction will. I'm hopeful and confident that they will, again, to give these families the closure that they need and deserve.
Are you at all worried? Arkansas hasn't carried out execution for more than 10 years. There have been what some would say are botched executions in Arizona, Oklahoma. Most recently, last year in Alabama, there was a man who gasped and coughed while struggling to breathe for 13 minutes while laying on the gurney there. Are you not worried that something like that could happen here?
Well, again, we're going to leave that up to the experts through the Department of Correction to find those drugs to ensure, but we certainly don't want any unnecessary pain, but again, those family members are going to they go through the pain each and every time this issue is brought up. They go through the pain of reliving their loved one being murdered, being killed, being tortured by one of these individuals, and perhaps it may have lasted longer than 13 minutes. Again, that is for the experts to obtain those drugs. I will work with them on the legalities of it to make sure that it is carried out, and it's a very arduous process to prepare for an execution in the state of Arkansas, even though we have not carried one out since Governor Huckabee was governor of Arkansas. And I anticipate, Drew, that we will carry one out and that we will give these families justice. That is what these families deserve.
Last question I wanted to ask you on that is, there have been studies that showed controlling for other factors, the death penalty was far more likely if a victim was black, especially if a victim was white, and especially if a victim was white and if a defendant was black. Does that not concern you at all, racial discrepancies in administering the death penalty?
Absolutely not. Again, these are individuals who committed these acts, were found guilty by a jury, and have been sentenced to death by that jury of their peers.
Let's talk about the Arkansas Supreme Court on Thursday struck down a Fayetteville City ordinance that prohibited discrimination based on gender identity and sexual orientation. Republicans largely have praised this decision. I thought GOP was the party of local control and small government.
Well, in this case, the Arkansas Supreme Court struck down Fayetteville's ordinance because it was trying to create a protected class that was not in state law. Act 137 of 2015 stated that cities, municipalities cannot add a protected class not already in state law. And because this protected class is not in state law, then the city could not add it. That doesn't mean that these individuals can't go to state legislature right now, who are in session right now, and contact them and ask them
do you think they should? Do you think that sexual orientation should be a protected class at religion or races?
Well, unfortunately, as Attorney General, I don't get to go over there and file bills.
Would you have an opinion on that?
Well, I do have an opinion that no one should be discriminated against, regardless. And so we hope that...
But should that be in the law?
Well, that's, again, the question for our legislators. And I don't know if there is a bill right now, a shell bill or otherwise, that
you can go over there and lobby for that if you want.
I have made it a priority not to try to stand in the place of the governor and the legislators. But again, this is something that the legislators put in and was signed into law in 2015 to protect individuals across the state. So that way we don't have a patchwork quilt of anti-discrimination laws across the state.
Let me ask you quickly about the Trump rescinding the Obama administration order as it pertains to transgender bathroom use. You called the Obama order a forcing liberal, outrageous social agenda on school-age children. What do you think individual school districts should do when it comes to those difficult cases of kids who identify with the opposite sex of their birth?
You know, school districts have been dealing with this for a number of years. The reason why I came out so hard against that order by the president is because they didn't go through the proper process to implement that. It was literally, as you just stated, shoving down a liberal social agenda down the throats of school districts across Arkansas.
Would you have school districts force kids to use the bathroom of their biological?
Well, that's not a question for me to answer. I believe that we have handled this in Arkansas, you know, where school districts are able to decide for themselves. They know these children that are involved. You know, my opposition to it was how it was handled through the process and also protecting young school children from predators.
We'll have to leave it at that. Attorney General Leslie Rutledge, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Drew.
When we come back, one senator's push to take Bill and Hillary Clinton's names off the Little Rock Airport becomes official. We'll discuss that and much more with our legislative panel. You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning.
Need affordable in-home care for an aging loved one? Superior Senior Care works with local VA programs, long-term care insurance policies, and the Arkansas Medicaid program. We also offer flexible payment options. Call us today.
River City Recreation World in Sherwood is your locally owned RV store. From compact lightweight trailers starting at $69.90 to luxury diesel motorhomes, we have it all. Family friendly and ready to give you the best RV experience. With 10 large service bays and qualified technicians to serve you, our full service facility ensures customer satisfaction. Great selection with over 200 new and used RVs in stock. Special financing programs with low interest and low monthly payments. So come to Sherwood and see for yourself. River City Recreation World.
Yes, it's a touchdown, all right, all over the carpet. It's a stain. It's time for the Boys in Blue. The Boys in Blue can clean your carpet, upholstery, tile and grout, even your hardwoods. You know, you should call the best in the business. Call the Boys in Blue.
The Boys in Blue.
Woo Pig.
Hi, I'm Steve Barnhill, and I'd like to invite you and your family to our grand opening at Barnhill Steaks and Buffet in Jacksonville.
You can enjoy our fried fish, fried chicken, slow-cooked pork barbecue, fresh home-cooked vegetables, salad, dessert, and more. Our lunch buffet is $7.99 for adults and $6.99 for seniors, Monday through Saturday. Family-owned, and we're proud to serve you the best buffet around.
Barnhill Steak and Buffet.
Buying my glasses was so easy.
Success Vision has the fastest service in town.
I got 2 pairs of no-line bifocals for only $79.
There's a doctor right next door. I got to choose from hundreds of frames. 2 pair for as low as $39.
Great prices and 1-hour service keep me coming back.
Success Vision has it all.
2 pair for $39 in an hour for less. Come see us today, Success Vision Express.
Not only is Superior Senior Care affordable, our non-medical in-home care services are provided on your schedule to meet your needs on your time. No long-term contracts, and you can cancel anytime for any reason. Call us today.
You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
Welcome back to Capitol View. The fight over campus carry featured a handful of twists this week at the Capitol. It's one of many big issues in the works as we speak. Joining us to discuss guns on campus and much more, Senate President John Dismang and State Representative Clark Tucker. Gentlemen, welcome to you both.
Thanks for having us.
First things first, should the Clinton name be removed from the Little Rock Airport? There was a bill filed this week.
Well, I mean, if it is removed, I think that should be done by the City of Little Rock or the Airport Commission. I think that's probably where it's more properly done. I think we get in some local control issues, and there's probably a number of folks in the state or cities that would rather not have the state get in the business of, naming their different facilities.
Is that going to be that bill going to go by the wayside? Have you had any talks with Senator Rapert?
We talked a little bit about him filing it, but I didn't realize it was going to go ahead and come out until this week when the bill was dropped. But we have not had any further conversations, and I'm not sure how much he will press on moving forward.
I assume you think we should keep the name?
That's an easy one for me. As I represent Little Rock, I think the city should be the one to make that decision. And, as far as President Clinton goes, obviously President Trump carried Arkansas this last time around. But as a state, we did vote for President Clinton 8 times. I think, we indicated our support for, the work that he did for us in the state and the country. But even separate and apart from that, he's the only president we've ever had from Arkansas. And I think in Kansas, they honor President Eisenhower, whether they're Democrats or Republicans. In California, they honor President Reagan, whether they're Democrats or Republicans. And that's the way it should be here, too.
Let's talk medical marijuana. The Trump administration came out with a statement this week saying that they were going to leave states doing the medical thing alone. As we work through this in the legislative sessions, most of the bills that have come up for votes have been seen as implementation bills, but there are several that would change. Maybe some people think, where are we at with that? I mean, are we going to start seeing some of those more maybe drastic changes bills come up later?
Well, I mean, I think that guidance is important as we move forward, because I think there was a number of members looking for that type of guidance from the White House and what their policies were going to be moving forward. And so I think that'll be helpful, and especially in the debate, since it requires such a strong threshold to change anything in regards to that constitutional amendment. At this point in the Senate, we've put a pause on anything that was coming through to ensure that there was that type of a support available. And ultimately, you have to look at how this has to move forward. There's a number of bills that change that constitutional amendment out there right now. Some of those have passed. And at the end of the day, though, we're going to have a bill that takes all of those into one form, and so that we're going to have that 2/3 agreement.
Representative Tucker, are you worried that this program could go too far? We spent some time in New Mexico where they were having, expos where they were handing out these cards like candy, and I wonder if that's something that people should be afraid of is going to happen here.
I think the way it was drafted in a way to try to avoid that possible outcome. It was drafted very carefully. As you know, there were 2 proposals on the ballot, and this was actually the more restrictive version that stayed on and got passed. And the good news is that it did provide the legislature with the authority to revise it, so long as it's consistent with the spirit of what the people voted for. That's what we've done so far in the session, and if it got out of hand, I think we could continue to revise it in that way.
Let's talk about campus carry. What the heck is going on over in the Senate? It looked like there was a compromise, at least among Republicans at one point, with allowing anyone 25 and older to be able to carry with an additional training requirement. Now the NRA is weighing in against that. Where are we?
It's really going to be up to the sponsors at this point, what they want to do with the bill. If they'd like to send it back to committee to have that additional amendment put on, I think most members were comfortable with the direction that it was going, and probably would have had passage on Thursday if it would have been allowed to come up for a vote. But again, at this point, it's really hard to say what the ultimate form of this bill is going to look like.
Where are you at?
I support campus carry in general. I think we need to have some common sense measures in place. I think this last amendment accomplished that. But again, you're really going to have to reserve until we know what that final bill is going to look like.
I think it's very important for us to pay attention to the input of the campus police that we've heard from, and they think the more contained that it is, the better, because they're better able to identify people who might be in an active shooter situation. Right now, they'll be able to identify the faculty and staff that they're familiar with and they know have a concealed carry license on campus. If it's just anybody on campus, it introduces a whole set of unknowns, and they won't be able to deal with that as safely as they would like. And that's the feedback we've gotten. And so just in terms of their expertise on public safety, I would defer to them.
Internet sales tax seems to be caught up on what are we going to do with the additional revenue if it goes through. I know Democrats have tried to advocate for putting some of that money towards what they say are needy programs. Where are you on that, and does that not have a chance to, is viable on the House floor with those additions?
I do think it's viable on the House floor generally. I think everyone recognizes it's not a tax increase because it's already a tax that's due and owing. The other important factor is that our homegrown retailers right now are at a competitive disadvantage against giant retailers online because they don't have to pay the sales taxes online, but they do here. And so I think people are generally supportive of it for those two reasons. I'm not on revenue and tax, and that's where that discussion is happening about how to spend the money if it comes out. And so I can't speak to that as much. I can just say generally I am for increased support for our pre-K programs and some of the other things that are part of that discussion.
He says it's not a new tax, but that's easy for him to say because he doesn't have to run a Republican primaries, and I know that there's been some groups that have some strong feelings about that. How do your members look at that, and where are we going forward?
So you have two different versions out there, and I supported the Senate version, which would allow the collection there at the merchant level, much like you have here locally. I don't believe it's a new tax. I think it's pretty clear, and I think Amazon has pretty much said that themselves when they've admitted they will start collecting the tax here in the state of Arkansas. I mean, to get back a little bit to the discussion that's taking place in the House right now, it's one that really I find a bit odd. We're wanting to pre-approve the expenditure of funds before they ever come in and before we ever know what the amounts are even going to be. And so I hope we can get past that discussion and move to one that's a bit more realistic.
Quick question, I'm running out of time, but there was a basketball game this past week.
Absolutely.
And how are you feeling about that? I know that the Senate was successful.
Right, so this is the first time that we've done members own. We came out on top, not just a little bit, but in a pretty big way. And right now, that trophy, I would have brought it with me today, but Senator Hutchinson has it, and he's doing a victory raffle in the state right now. But in the end, though, you got to say that it's a great event. We had a good time, but also we raised now cumulatively about $150 million, and very proud. $150,000. Sorry about that.
Well, it was fun to watch you guys, especially with none of the All-Stars out there. You guys really got a chance to shine.
Well, we missed you this year. But
shine is definitely one way to put it.
Representative Clark Tucker, Senator John Dismang, thanks so much for coming on the show. We're back to wrap it up after this. You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning.
This month at Hogs Meat Market, 5 pounds ground beef, 1 1/4 pounds sausage, 2 1/2 pounds pork steaks, 2 1/2 pounds pork chop, and your choice of 5 pounds leg quarters, 3 pounds chicken breasts, or 5 pounds chicken nuggets, 2 1/2 pounds beef patty. Your choice, $39.95. Still the best dressed meat in town.
Wilson Auctioneers was just absolutely fantastic.
We sold it on a Thursday. We closed on a Friday. We were out of the place on a Saturday.
Call Joe Wilson. Don't put it off. Call him today.
Why list your property when Wilson can sell it?
Sold it, sold it, sold it.
We're here in Peru right now giving glasses and free eye care to people who need it the most. And really, it's because of you, our awesome Success Vision customers. Every time you buy glasses at Success Vision, a portion goes to helping people all over the world. So from everybody here, thank you. I'm David, and I'm proud to be a Success Vision manager.
2 pair for $39 in an hour for less. Come see us today, Success Vision Express.
You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
That's it for today's show. We are back with an all-new Capitol View next week. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
It's our Factory Direct Pool and Spa sale at Family Leisure. Buy now and save big. Round pools from $7.99. Oval pools from $19.99. Spas, now is the time to buy. Swim spas only $99.99. Become the family hero and save money. Factory Direct Pool and Spa sale going on now at Family Leisure.
Success Vision is the best place to get no-line bifocals.
I was able to get 2 pair of no-line bifocals for $79.
My bifocals are ready in just a few hours.
My last pair of no-lines cost me $500. I came to Success Vision and got them for $57.
I got my eye exam next door.
One-stop shop for buying glasses.
My bifocals look great.
2 pair for $39 in an hour for less. Come see us today, Success Vision Express.
Welcome to Denver Mattress, home of the 365-night better sleep guarantee. We're also home to the best selection of the best major brands in the country. Brands like Tempur-Pedic, Serta, and Simmons. Stop in and let our knowledgeable sales staff custom fit you to the mattress of your dreams. And Check out our Doctor's Choice Plush Queen Set, voted best mattress buy under $800 by the leading consumer magazine. Shop Denver Mattress today, inside Furniture Row.
Are you taking time to enjoy the important things in life? Time to spend with family? Time to try new things? Time to have fun. At Kroger, you can have your prescriptions filled while you shop. So it's easy to save money and time with your Kroger pharmacy. And you can get back to the things you love.